Hello and welcome to week 6 in biopsychology, and we're going to be taking on vision. In this particular course, vision is the sort of the one we spend the most time on, the one of the senses that we spend the most time on. It's a little bit of a disappointment that the book doesn't go into this depth for each one of the senses, but we do get a little bit of expansion in the other senses when we take the class sensation and perception. That goes a little bit into more detail as to each one of those. For the purposes of the way this course is put together, based on our textbook, is that the world of vision is explored in lots of depth. It's probably the most advanced of all the human senses, hence its priority. And the kind of assumptions that we learn about how the brain works are applied then to the rest of the senses. We'll get into some hearing, we'll get into some touch and taste, when we talk about the 5 senses. We'll get into the 30 some odd senses that we actually have, it's not only 5, all kinds of them. And then, but not to the detail we're going into vision. But what we learn about vision, we can extrapolate and apply to the way all of our senses work. So in vision, you're going to do all the reading and whatnot, and we're going to have a discussion, kind of a fun one, where you're going to be able to go out into the web and find optical illusions and present them in class. And what I would like you to do is to actually find the optical illusion. That's one thing, but then do some research on that optical illusion to see if you can find out what is happening on the neurological level. If you can't find out what's happening after a little bit of research, speculate from what you know about the way the vision system works, about how proprietary systems within our vision network will prioritize particular images. So, all kinds of stuff to learn about that we can then present as that's why that particular image acts and confuses our vision system. It tells us about how the vision system works. Then in the quiz, you're going to be describing the visual pathway. You are to describe the entire visual pathway from external stimulus to cognitive recognition and reaction. The whole thing. Don't truncate that. You start from a photon coming into the eye all the way to the frontal lobe where we're making decisions about what we're seeing. So make sure you cover that whole pathway. The assignment is to do some research on other animals in our world that have maybe extreme senses, much different sense of vision, different sense of hearing, a dog's sense of smell. These are animals that have extreme abilities, almost super abilities, in order to discover the diversity of our animal kingdom. And there is a lab. There's a very simple lab about color blindness and the tools that are used that allow psychologists and also, of course, ophthalmologists and whatnot to determine whether or not you have visual acuity across the entire visual spectrum, and whether you diagnosed with a thing called color blindness, red-green color blindness. That's probably the most common of the color blindness. Getting a little bit of sense of that, looking at the tools that are used to make those determinations. So kind of a fun chapter. This vision is really cool. It's a narrow part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we experience our whole visual world in, light reflecting off of objects. The objects absorb that light and reflect back the light that we have chosen, that we have learned to identify, let's say, as green, the background here, and blue here, and black on my jacket. Those labeling, thinking about how that whole learning process happens, and the biological basis of this wonderful sense that we call vision. So enjoy this content. It's really rich, very fun, because we experience it as we learn about it, and I look forward to interacting with you in the discussions. So take care.